Happy Wednesday, everyone. I am at East High School, and I'm going to visit Dr. Larry Weible, who is the teacher that I work with over here with the ESL science class. And we're going to pay him a little visit and have a little talk about our work together. So, I'm on my way in the door, and we'll talk to Dr. Weible shortly. Hi, Dr. Weible. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Just working on a few things.
Okay. Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the 8th grade science class that that you inherited.
And that you helped me with.
Yeah. And
I would love to.
Okay. All right. So maybe we'll go over here and sit down.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, they're wonderful.
Okay. Now, normally you teach upper level.
I do. I teach AP biology, anatomy, and physiology, and then I have this biosciences. So this is it's outside of my realm of expertise, and some initially anyway, my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Although you did complete an ESL certification program that our department, actually through a grant that our department wrote, and we partnered with Webster University, so you did have some training.
Got a master's degree.
Yes, you did. And,
but that doesn't make you a master. I'm learning that very fast.
Yeah, you can't help but learn when you have something that's moving so fast. Yeah. So let's talk about how the students transition to your class, because they didn't just show up one day. So tell me about...
They kind of did. Actually, it was a transition. It was the previous teacher. I went to her, work with her for about a week to kind of get, for the students to get accustomed to me get accustomed to them, kind of start to learn some of their names, some of their little idiosyncrasies. And so whenever they came up here, I did already have a seating chart. So I worked with them about a week in the other teacher's classroom before they came here, and it seemed like the class has just gotten larger and larger to this.
Pretty much. So so let's talk about them coming up, getting up here, because that same lack of order existed when they came up. And I know you used your rigidity. Excuse me. You used that to kind of maintain control of the class, and that was around the time when I had made that trip to Houston with student educators, and I saw these amazing things going on around character development. So let's talk about how we transitioned from the military style to...
Yeah, I like that military style. Being in the military has always worked for me. I think that I realized, even though I had for the most part had what I would prefer is good control of the class and discipline, the class lacked the structure, the key components to hold that in place without me constantly directing it. And whenever you came back from Houston, we had several different conversations over, still do, of character development and the types of the components that went into character development, and how it really changed the Houston schools, and how it would make a difference for us. And over time, and we had these shout outs on Fridays and stuff, it's really made a difference. But it's one person's classroom, and then the students become different in another person's classroom, and we see that all the time. Mm-hmm. But I think that what we're seeing now is a continuity between my class, the next class, regardless of the teacher. There's that streamline of character development. Those characters that we're still working on, and will always be working on, to instill in the students, is carried from one class to another. So regardless of who the teacher is, we see those rewards and benefits.
Yeah, I think that's important. I remember you calling me a crusader.
Oh, I probably did.
Because you weren't totally sold.
You were on fire.
Yeah, I was. I'm still on fire. But you weren't totally convinced that the character was what they needed. But what I saw was that here's students, especially students that are new to our culture, that they needed to be taught certain behaviors in order to be successful in the classroom. And the thing, I guess the epiphany for me was when the work that we were doing with them around, so you chose 3 things: self-control, respect, and responsibility. Those were the things that you wanted to focus on with them. And it was amazing when I went to another classroom and heard the teacher raising her voice a little, And as soon as I walked in the classroom, they immediately stood up, like sat up and they're like, oh, what about self-control? And you're like, yes, okay, self-control. And so that's when that teacher actually decided that what are you doing down there?
What are you doing down there?
I went in on whatever you all were doing, and so it kind of went viral that way.
It did.
And another science teacher, she comes in a lot, and they collaborate. But yeah, so when I looked at the students, they knew immediately that they needed to exercise self-control and respect, and they even said those character traits out and kind of pulled themselves together. So that was really interesting to see.
And whenever when I do some reflection, because my personality and what I've always been accustomed to, it would work for me only to a degree to have that rigid. Here's what we need to do in class, but I didn't have the structure. I just didn't have the components to build the structure. And when you came back, we were just so on fire, and it's like, okay, yeah, I agree, because I've always been a firm believer in character development, but believing it and knowing how to teach it and how to incorporate it in your lessons is, I mean, like, sure, I had a master's, I have a doctorate, etc., but it's something that's just not really taught. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give you, because I do respect you, and I'm very thankful to have you work with me. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you a chance. And if you notice, I kind of like, okay, I'm like, hey, this is yours. I'm going to step back. You can have this. And I kind of watched it working, and I was like, okay, there's some merit here, and I truly am. I'm proud of my students. And as I said to someone the other day, which is true, they leave, but there's that bond, there's that communication, that bond, that building relationships, that these, boy, I don't know how I would do it. I don't know how I could do what they do as a new American if I were in their country. I don't know if I could do as well as most of them do. So that structure and understanding culture, because I think when we look at responsibility, honesty, respect, and self-discipline is about culture.
Yeah.
So we're redirecting their culture from what they've been accustomed to for 12, 14 years, and that takes time, and it's a process.
Right, and it has to be taught. But I think a lot of times we assume that students they know, because I've heard comments like, this is almost the end of the school year. Students should know, but if they don't know it, that means that they have to be taught it.
Right.
And so that's why I think it was powerful with this class, because it was actually taught. And we didn't just do that. You wanted them to be organized, so you taught them organization. Remember that?
I did.
Dr. Weible purchased all these notebooks for his students, and he taught them how to set their notebook up with a table of contents, and so we took them through the process.
I think I had a little direction on this, Muriel.
Yeah.
You helped me, because this is not something I normally do. I haven't used a theme book, notebook. Geez, I don't know. It's probably been 20 years. It's just outside of my normalcy of things to do, so I really appreciated that. But it works. My expectation is you just keep track of your stuff.
Right, and that wasn't happening. Things were everywhere. And so now, if you look and you can see, they have their notes and everything in one place. They put their papers or anything that they're working on in one place, and then at the end of class, everything's stacked up on the table, so they have all their materials right at their fingertips. And that's been very helpful, especially when they're reviewing for tests or reviewing some type of information. You can tell them, look in your notebook on this page, and this is where you'll find it. So it's building those, I call them master student skills, but academic literacy skills that they can take from one class to the next.
And all these components I'm not successful, but it's made a big difference in the success of my students. The things that you've taught me and the character development traits really transcends into their lesson preparation and accountability.
Yeah, I agree. We have a couple of other things that I have to show this at the end, but I saw this in, what school was I at? I think I was at Yes Prep in Houston, and they had a noise level chart, and so we did a nice little colorful noise level chart with an arrow.
Oh, I know. It's like when you did it, I was like, what did I tell you? I said, this is so elementary. Did I not?
Yes, you did.
I was like, okay, this is outside my comfort zone. This is just too elementary. But you know what? It less than 2 elementary for their level of understanding and acclimation to, again, our culture and expectations.
Yeah, yeah. And so even, I think it was earlier this week when I was in here, and I think it was it on Quiet Whisper, or it was on No
I think
Talking?
someone had moved it or something, yeah.
Yeah, I moved it because they were talking a little louder than we
And you
wanted.
pointed to it.
And I pointed to it, and everybody looked, and then immediately they just toned it down.
You had that effect on our students.
Oh, goodness.
You
Must be
did.
my mother instincts or something. So, okay, so do you want to talk well, another thing we've been doing also, I think with this group is, because of the different language levels, one of the most important things is differentiating for them, and we're still struggling with that with this new
This is
group.
very difficult.
And so I'll be working on some.
I noticed you mentioned that today about my little group back here. That's a tough area for those new students, and to have enough pictures and examples to make the connection between the vocabulary and the concept.
Right.
And that's something I need to work more on, and it's just, boy, our hour goes faster than any hour I teach during the day.
It does.
I look at the clock and it's 10 minutes before bell time, and I'm just feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah. So we'll be working on some vocabulary activities, matching. We do a lot of hands-on type of manipulative things for
You
them.
prepare a lot of manipulative.
So, but that helps them actually process the information. So,
and understanding.
Yeah. So we'll be working on some things. I know for the group that has little or no English language at a particular time, I think I need to look at some Oxford picture dictionaries or something where they can manipulate
That would
terms.
be a good idea.
Yeah, so I'll go to the office and look for some of those things and make some activities where they can manipulate words, terms, and pictures. Because
There's money in the budget right now if we wanted to order something. May not get them until next year, but certainly they wouldn't go to waste.
Okay, that sounds good. We can get some science-related ones.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Dr. Weible. Well, this is Dr. Weible, and hopefully I'll get a chance to invite you into his classroom at some point during the month. I do a lot of work over in Northeast, and we're working on quite a few things over there, so you'll get a chance to see those students, but I'd like to let this class shine as well. So
They are
learners.
They are fun.
All right, thank you, Dr. Weible.
Thank you.